All right, everyone. Welcome to the Best Company Podcast. We're very excited to be with you. The Best Company Podcast, where we talk to business owners, marketing professionals, a number of people, and learn about their business a little bit and exactly what they're doing to build their reputation online and offer an excellent customer experience to all of their customers. So today, we have Tyler and Keith from Astrawatt Solar, which is a fascinating company. They've actually recently been through a rebrand, and they have an amazing business model that they're going to be rolling out. And we're going to be talking about that along with how they're building their reputation. A lot of great discussions to be had. So thanks for coming, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Awesome. Let me just, so Keith, first of all, started at Astrawatt in 2016. And, that was because he was frustrated by the sheer number of pushy solar sales companies and wanted to give homeowners the solar experience they deserve. Earlier, before we started the podcast, both of these guys were really talking about educating the customer, which I think is very meaningful in this type of an industry where it's a highly considered purchase, takes a lot of information to really be able to decide. So I thought that was very cool. And his focus on creating a great solar experience has led Astrawatt Solar to become one of the top solar companies in the United States, and that's true. And then Tyler, on the other hand, is a veteran of the solar industry and has led several solar sales companies. He joined Astrawatt in 2019, so big hitter entering Astrawatt. That's great. Because he was attracted to Astrawatt's focus on educating homeowners and helping prospective customers get all the information they need to make the right decision about going solar. Very cool. Well, hey, fellas, to kick it off, why don't we just talk about Astrawatt a little bit, maybe a little bit of the growth over the years, obviously Keith being there for some time. Talk to me a bit about the decisions you've had to make to really continue to grow Astrawatt, maybe some of those challenges you faced, but what does that journey look like over the last couple of years that you've been there?
So I started the business in 2016, and January of 2016 was 5 days short of 2015. So
that's a good way to remember.
So, I worked in the industry. I've been in the industry almost a decade now. So I've been a business owner for 6 years, but my previous experiences primarily were with companies that, just kind of did sales activities. And I was a sales guy, and that was my experience. And, there were good and there were bad experiences, but overall, the theme prior to starting my own business was, just sales psychology and how do you close the deal and one meeting. And, I think there's a lot of companies that still do that, and there isn't anything inherently wrong with that as long as you are still providing people with the knowledge they need and answering their questions. But I wanted to take a different approach, and it kind of happened by chance. I met with an engineer, and he had 500 questions. I answered the questions. I met with him. He had a ton more questions, and I answered all those questions. Even though I was a brand new business, he knew I was a brand new business. I was the only one that was able to answer all his questions. And so he decided to go with me, right? And it kind of clicked in my head, there's a different way to do this. We don't have to focus on closing the sale the first time we meet with them. And ever since that experience I had, it kind of changed my mentality, and that's the way our business has operated since. So first and foremost, our mission is to provide better solar experiences, and it starts with the sales and marketing process.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a lot of sense, and cool to kind of hear how the business started and just what those conversations look like. And obviously solar is expanding rapidly across the United States, and Astrawatt is one of those that does have an excellent sales effort that goes along with it. So great to hear how you're kind of modeling this in a little bit more evolved, other than just having that sales force and being kind of pushy. It's kind of an evolved approach here. Tyler, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Yeah. Having been now just a few years, how has that process been? Maybe there's been some objections that you've been able to approach because the brand has such a good reputation, whatever that process is. Love to hear a little bit about the sales approach on your team.
Yeah, we like Keith was saying, he started this to really kind of differentiate ourselves from a lot of the high pressure decision today, must get a contract signed. So we took the opposite approach that, we're going to go in, we're going to educate the consumer.
We're going to really figure out, what are the pros and cons of solar for your home. And then we want them to go get 2, 3, 4 different estimates, right? We want them to know at the end of the day, they're not only getting the best products at what we think is a very fair price, but we're really, truly want to separate ourselves when we're at the kitchen table, right? We want to be able to answer all of their questions. We follow up differently than most. It's shocking, but there's so many companies out there who meet with a prospective client, and if they don't get a contract signed, they never hear from that sales rep again, right? So with us kind of shifting our focus on, look, every now and then people have already met with 4 companies and say, hey, this sounds great, let's go with you, and they sign when they meet with us, but it's not our model. So with us shifting our focus on, hey, we want to be as educational as possible. There's no hidden agenda. Before we leave here, you're going to have all the information, right, in your inbox, on your table, whatever it may be. Go get your quotes and then utilize us as a resource, right? What's happened from there is, it's almost eliminated people that met with them, they never heard from again, right? Because we're going to be there. We're going to, whether it's a thank you card or whether we're texting them just like a follow-up video to our initial meeting, right? We've had a lot of success by not being pushy, by being a little more educated than the average person at their house, and having a follow-up plan in place that, just allows them to really be able to do their due diligence without feeling pressured.
Yeah. How, you guys, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a crowded market just because you're like, there's potentially, whether you call them competitors or whatever, entering the market just because the market's growing at such a rapid rate year over year. But how, you've mentioned education, how do you kind of differentiate yourself from potentially another group that might be in the same state? There's a couple of big ones that cover the whole United States, so I'm sure you offer kind of some local customer service, but what are some differentiators that you're offering your customer base?
Yeah, well, so that it starts with the sales process, right? Like, how do you encourage someone to go solar and that you're better than the rest? We can kind of touch on that, but it's a full circle for us. Like, we're vertically integrated. So anytime we sell a deal in every market we're in, it immediately gets passed off to the next person on our team to take over, right? And if we have a good meeting with the homeowner and they liked us in the home and they sign a contract, and then they have a good experience with the project management team, and then they have a good experience with the install team, there's a very good chance they're going to leave us a good review or give us a referral. And we do get a lot of referrals, but every review we get helps us, like Tyler said, at the kitchen table, right? So I think, our differentiator lies in the fact that we actually do good work. The almost 60 to 75% of our employees are installers. Most solar companies out there are nearly 100%, the ones at least branded and you see online are just sales companies, right? Most of our employees are installers. And so that's who we are. Yeah. That's who we are as a company. And we get a lot of people that say, hey, someone just knocked on my door. I'm not too sure about them. They seemed off. The quote seems off. They had no idea what they were talking about. I found you guys online. You have good reviews. Can you help us out? And I can't tell you how many projects we win just by that. It's crazy. So doing good work and treating people the right way, it's not a short-term. It's a long-term play, yeah. And that's the route we've taken. So you asked the question about growth previously. We grew very slow the first couple of years. We built a very strong foundation, and once we had everything in place and got some things in order, we took off. We've been on Inc. 500 the last 2 years. We should be again this year as well when they come out in June or July. So it's not rocket science. Treat people well, do good work, and you're going to win deals.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I appreciate the mention of like the importance of a review. I think that is both. It's data that you can take in as a as an owner, as really crafting that customer experience. It's information for you, but also I love the phrase like at the kitchen table, bring it in. And then in a third way too, it's really part of that customer journey, whether it's kind of more bottom of funnel, like in the, you're actually talking to a family at the kitchen table, or even top of funnel where, hey, someone knocked on my door, seemed like a fishy salesperson. So I went online, looked at what was around me, something like that, and they were able to find your company. So that's exactly the strategy that you should be doing, and it's great to hear that. And you guys both on Best Company and on Google, I've kind of checked out your reputation stack, what we call it here. You guys have done a great job to really take those customer experiences in and really leverage them. One thing we wanted to talk to you guys about with Astrawatt is, one, you guys have been on the Best Company platform through a rebrand, which I think is fascinating, and then obviously you're implementing a new business model. So I'd love to kind of hear how, what your go-to-market is with that, and how maybe you're utilizing some reputation that you built, just like you said, that foundation, and how you're really leveraging that to scale rapidly.
Yeah, the rebrand really at first wasn't by choice, right? But what we,
interesting.
Yeah, and I'll get into that shortly. But Keith and I, like you said, I joined in 2019, and I had been fortunate to be with some great companies, and I had led. This will be the fourth company that's been on the Inc. 500, right? And my last stop prior to this, I was traveling, 3 weeks out of the month, right? So it's a great company, but I was in airports and hotels, and that's all I did. And the next step in my career really was to own a business, right? That was kind of the next model. Keith and I have known each other, over 10 years now. I hired him at one of his first stops in the solar industry, right? So we go way back. Yeah. And we obviously kept in touch the whole time as he was starting this. And then when we did it, we did a partnership where I had a territory and then he had the rest. And we eventually merged all that. But I say all that to say this, we thought we've had a lot of growth. Do we expand this across the country, right? Do we take a bunch of money and do 40, 50, 60 locations and kind of follow the model that a lot of these other large players have done? The downside to that is the reviews start lacking, right? And you don't get people that really, truly care. They're kind of just there for a paycheck. When you're hiring 1,000 employees, it's hard to make sure you have everybody in place that, really has the company's best interest at heart, that's going to work hard, et cetera. So the only way we felt like we could keep our reputation in place, we could really duplicate our processes and procedures across the country, is with people that cared about the business like it was their own, right? Which is where the franchise model came in. Because we're going to give them the blueprint. We have an entire team from project management to sales to installation, really across the board, designed to train. There's obviously manuals for everything, right? So we set that up. And when we decided, all right, we're going to franchise, we didn't notice, we submitted a trademark on our previous branding, our previous name, and that didn't go through. So from there, which, oh, wow. I don't know if you've ever dealt with trademarks, but it's an interesting process. There's a lot that goes into that. So we literally went through 2, 3, 4 different names back and forth with our attorneys, all these knockout reports. And, we came up with a brand that, not only are we passionate about it, we like the idea behind the name, the true meaning behind the name, but we're able to file for the trademarks and truly expand it across the country, right? So I know that was a long-winded answer to why we rebranded, but that's also really why we decided on the franchise model versus just expanding with company-owned stores everywhere.
Yeah. For those listening, the solar industry, it's replicated in other industries as well, but especially in the solar industry, there are dealers who a lot of times are the customer-facing brands that often have sales forces, are often basically kind of inking the deals of being able to install solar panels onto a roof. And then your installers are actually the groups that will go through the actual process of installing. And a number of companies do end-to-end, Astrawatt being one of them. And so this model is actually fairly unique in that, a franchise model in the solar industry, Astrawatt's really one of the only that I've been very familiar with, where they're going to, have a franchise owner go out into a new state or a new area and kind of replicate their model that they've done in their home base. And it's very interesting. It's very different. My question going into that then is, has it been helpful? You know, we mentioned earlier on, building that base is that reputation that you've, you know, set up it's nice to enter into a new state and kind of carry that reputation with you rather than maybe, you know, finding a new a dealer that's just going to sell your panels and then hopefully their reputation's good, right? I mean, has that been kind of an advantage to you potentially scaling, that you're able to kind of take that reputation to a new place?
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit of the franchise. I mean, don't get me wrong. The first thing you think about with the franchise model is, are they gonna, you know, is the franchise owner gonna buy in? You know, so that's part of our process in the beginning, is making sure, like, we're not just gonna let anyone become a franchise owner.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's the deal. Like it's got to be a good fit. But like Tyler said, if you own the business and we don't just hire like a regional manager. I mean, there's a much different flavor or feel to that, you know, like if you own the business, you're going to make sure it's good to go, and you want to build a legacy. So yeah, I mean, having a good brand and good reviews in the territories that we're in definitely we think is going to help carry over. But I think, you know, the way we do things just kind of lends itself to allow these franchise owners to do good work and to get reviews quickly and build a solid local company that's locally owned in short order. And we're focused primarily, our growth is on territories that are less served. I mean, we're in Kansas City, and we have a location in St. Louis, and you know, Tyler's in Houston, which is a little different. You know, the Houston's huge, and there's a lot of competition down in Houston. Yeah. But you know, if we can sell solar in the Midwest, you know, we feel like we can do it anywhere in the country. And we do have a franchise location in Oklahoma City. We just became live as a franchisor just a few months ago, and our first franchise in Oklahoma City, they're rocking and rolling. They're doing well, and they already have an in-house crew. It took us about 2 years to bring our crew in our everything in-house to be vertically integrated and figure it all out, right? Yeah. So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with hiring subcontractors as a solar company, but there are definitely huge advantages. Yeah. And our goal is to get every franchisee up and running, vertically integrated with their own install crew as soon as possible. And Oklahoma City was able to do it in months. And it's crazy. That's awesome. They're firing all cylinders. Yeah, and it's, you know, taking everything that we've learned through the years and the processes, procedures, and the support that we provide them. I mean, there's no way that didn't have a part to play in that, right? Yeah.
I think one more question around kind of that, and I understand it was somewhat of a forced rebrand to kind of switch your business model and everything, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, what can you take with you from one brand name to another? Really, like all you, I mean, you have a new style guide, a new colors, new website potentially, but you have your previous customers. Yeah. Like that's what you can kind of take with you, right? How in kind of your go-to-market and kind of re-releasing your brand to the public, how have you leveraged your previous customers? I know we mentioned kitchen table thing, but like how are you getting those experience in front of new customers, in front of new audiences, to make sure they understand really who you are from the get-go?
Well, we worked on it for about a year.
Yeah.
Because we knew we filed for a trademark. It was denied. We actually sent a cease and desist letter from another company. So it was kind of became pretty important to start going on another path. But it took us about a year from that point of learning, hey, we got to do something else, to actually doing it. So it wasn't something we did overnight. Like we put a lot of work into it. And we have a excellent CTO who is just so good. And I have a marketing background, and branding and stuff like that are things that I'm super passionate about. So I think we did a good job of that kind of side of the rebrand, but not losing customers like you said, and kind of keeping them along with you. We have service teams in every location, or we have people that do service in every location, meaning if a system goes down, if an inverter goes down, something needs to be RMA'd, or they switch internet providers and their monitoring isn't working, they call us and we get out there and do it. And that's I'm not going to say that's unusual or unique, but it's definitely something that not every solar company does.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people that call us all the time saying, hey, the people who installed my solar panels aren't picking up the phone and something's not working. So we help them out, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that, people know they can reach us, we sent out an email to all our customers, letting them know the name change, how they can reach us. We got, and we had people that we pitched, and we changed our name. I just talked to a guy yesterday who was in our office that has been researching solar for 20 years. 20 years. And, he was like, it was between you and one other company. Yeah, man, he knew everything, right? Like he probably knew more than I do about solar. But he was like, so tell me about the name change. So he went solar with us and signed a contract, even knowing like we just changed our name, and he'd been doing research for 20 years, and he had multiple bids. And I was thinking like, man, that's crazy. Like how did we win that one?
Yeah.
But it's just who we are. Yeah. Like we do good work. We have good people. We have good sales teams. We have good reviews. And man, it's building the long-term approach versus, the short term. Let's get a deal done today. I mean, that's our mantra.
Yeah.
And that's what we live and die by. And it's working.
That's awesome. And I think obviously if the customer experience is there, I think you get that kind of referral engine going, the word of mouth and everything that is also very convincing. Maybe part of his 20 years of education was also talking to people who had solar and had worked with certain brands and groups. And I'm sure that was part of it. That's something actually we've identified at Best Company is, you get a customer, and then you can kind of validate whether they're really an advocate for your brand based on their review. And then eventually if you get a video testimonial and you can actually leverage those as referrals, as people that can provide referrals to you. And that's something that we're building on our roadmap to provide that service as a part of the Best Company platform, which will be really cool.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been fantastic. I think it's really interesting. Tyler, you asked me if I had much background in trademark. No, I haven't had a single lick of experience trademarking anything, but I'm guessing that's pretty common, and it's very cool that you guys went through that. You really thought through the brand. Keith mentioning your background in marketing, I think I can see it as we've investigated your brand and kind of changed your profile at Best Company a little bit, and seen how you have really been able to make that switch seamlessly. And then the story of the guy still, even with the name change and everything, just feeling really confident in your services, shows that you're really aware of that reputation stack, really shows how ahead of the game you're really thinking on making sure that everything's all your I's are dotted and T's crossed and everything, making sure that the experience you're offering is excellent. I've been doing this with companies that we talk to. Parting thoughts, whether it's, we certainly never asked for anyone to give away any industry secrets. That's really putting you guys ahead of the game. But one reason is we just have so many different industries, so many different types of professionals, so many different products and services offered. Like, if you guys could each share just maybe 30, 60 seconds of what you've learned and what you feel like you've applied and it's really accelerated your growth in your careers and things like that. I think that would be really helpful for those listening and watching.
Yeah, I think, again, I've been fortunate to be a part of some great companies, some very large companies, and companies that also grew fast. And that allowed me to see a lot of things that are good, right? A lot of what to do. But probably more importantly, it allowed me to see a lot of what not to do. There's companies that their whole goal is growth, right? At all costs, as fast as possible. And if processes and procedures aren't in place, right, that can be a nightmare. If you don't take care of the customer or have automation or the proper communication, things like that, that can be an issue. So, not only did I know Keith forever, but I think a big part of what he had already built prior to me joining was that foundation, which is so important, right? He said it was kind of slow going. The foundation was in place. And that allows you from there, you can scale and grow quickly because all the other stuff is in place, right? And the customer experience at the end of the day is by far the most valuable thing to us because a happy customer refers people. They give us reviews. That allows us to pop up online on the first page and things like that. So we really focused on what is the customer experience from when we meet you, being educational, not being pushy, telling you to get your bids, giving you all the information, to now you've signed a contract to where we have somebody that handles your project, that keeps you in the loop. We have automation that every single time your project moves in our portal, you're going to get an update. Because solar could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, depending on permitting and HOAs. And I would never say another company or knock another company, but a lot of people get contracts signed and they don't hear from that company for 2 months. And they're like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Are they even working on this? With us, we have a site analysis. Then they know when their permit's scheduled, when the HOA is approved, what the next step is, so on and so forth. So to answer the question, I learned a lot of good and bad in this industry. And then, whenever I joined here, the foundation was in place. And that's what's allowed us to have a great customer experience, but to really scale this model and then duplicate this and offer it as a franchise.
Yeah, very cool. Keith, any parting thoughts?
I'll be very quick. Don't look at what your competition is doing. Look or search for what your customers want, or identify where your customers' pain points are, and how you can provide more value. Your competition is not gonna give you the tools you need to innovate. Your customers will, and your employees. Employees have great ideas. If you listen to your employees, implement opportunities to get more efficient and provide more value to your customers. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, and you can think, Tyler, you can think how much easier it is to sell something that your customers actually want, a product that you believe in, service that you trust, things like that. So great parting thoughts, fellas. Really appreciate you joining our podcast here. Again, we're excited for you guys. You guys are working hard, and that the business model that you'll be rolling out over the next few years we'll be watching. So thanks for joining us, Tyler and Keith, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.